Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Sanj, welcome back to the Bodybuilding News Network. We are at the day before the Mr. Olympia starting. Today's Thursday, the press conference, and I did want to take a quick look through a recap of the last podcast we just did with Mark's Max Muscle, Desktop Bodybuilding, and Project Bodybuilding, to include myself producing here on the Bodybuilding News Network. And we did our official Olympia predictions, top 10 men's open bodybuilding. I wanted to share for you at home, if you did not see that, my projected top 10 of what I think and what I want to happen consolidated into one list. So we are going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to run through what I think is going to be happening at this year's Mr. Olympia in terms of who's placing where, who's on first, who's on second, and kind of a little bit of a justification of who is placing where and why. And we're going to start off from the bottom of the list, and then we're going to move our way up. So we're going to start off with who I think is going to be in top 10. Remember that this is a very deep lineup. So whoever I put in 10, they're in that echelon of some of the best athletes in the world. So keep that in mind. But the first person I have on the list here in 10th place is going to be William Bonac. And unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of updates from William Bonac except for September 21st, 2024, around, as you can see here on the description, 3 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia. I saw him at the athlete meet and greet, or the check-ins, right? The weight check-ins, and he looked big but dense, but yet small next to a lot of people. I mean, really, Andrew Jacked was the guy that stood out the most for me. Some of the other guys looked small, but we'll definitely find out who's going to be ready, who's going to be peeled come tomorrow for prejudging at the end of the evening. Hopefully, if they get everybody on stage at the right time. But William Bonac has really proved himself over the years, placing as high as second, I believe. Second at the Mr. Olympia, behind, I think it was Phil Heath at the time. I don't think it was one of the big Ramy years. So Phil Heath, close battle, but Phil was just very dominant. William Bonac, not at his prime. He's kind of tapering off his career right now, but still a very intense, a very good competitor. I see him placing 10th place. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below on my prediction of William Bonac placing 10th. Now, the person I have in 9th, I think it's a very bold prediction, but I don't think that this guy has actually been moving up in placings. I think the league has been kind of giving him a handout the last couple of years, and the league has been doing him favors, but he has not been doing them favors, and I think that is going to spell him moving down significantly in placings somewhere around 9th place, and that's going to be for a former Mr. Olympia champion, Brandon Curry. Now, I have Brandon Curry in 9th. I didn't like what I saw from him last year. I've never really liked what I saw from him in the previous years. I thought his legs were clearly unbalanced from the rest of his physique to the extent that he should not be winning Olympia titles, let alone being in the first call-out, if the legs are so obviously different, undersized, underconditioned, underseparated from the rest of the physique. There are so many other competitors with amazing physiques, detailed, crisp, young, exciting physiques, that when you look at Brandon Curry, he's got a lot of size, a lot of density. The back in the upper body is really nice, but I think that it does not outweigh the deficiencies in the lower body. I have the former Mr. Olympia, Brandon Curry, in 9th place. Let me know your thoughts down below on that one. Definitely a big pick for me, putting him all the way that low. Of course, he placed 4th, I believe it was last year, so a huge drop. Obviously, it's not what's going to actually happen. The league would never let him drop that low, but that's where I think he should place, and that's where I want him to place. 8th place, This guy is one of those guys that he's placed first call out at the Olympia before, and I think he's always looked good to me. It's just the conditioning and being able to see the physique has always been a challenge for this guy. He's, like I said, he's been a first call out gentleman at the Mr. Olympia, and I'm speaking none other than in 8th place, BNN's pick for 8th place, we have AEM Williams. Now, I will say that AEM could place higher. I doubt it. If anything, he's going to fall shorter. We've seen some physique updates from him. I know this tricep shot looked pretty detailed, but nothing crazy. AEM is one of these guys that doesn't show too much coming into a show. He shows just enough that you start thinking, okay, he's ready. He's not going to be a slouch. He's not going to look too bad. He's not going to look bad. But I do wish that he would bring more to his physique. I believe with a strong spirit. George DeBulls, Justin Miller's the coach, RIP, but one of those coaches. I want to see him place higher. It's just really hard for me to put him above anybody else. I think that this is a strong pick for AEM Williams, and I do hope that he does show up as well as I think that he might. So that is my 8th place pick. Now we start getting into the really tough picks. We have 7th place, and this guy for 7th is definitely someone that's in the conversation to place 5th here. I don't think his physique deserves it. I think that there's a lot of issues with his physique that a lot of people are overlooking, either because of previous placings or because of the last name. You all know him. Some of you love him. Some of you hate him. Hunter Labrada is going to be the 7th place finish for me in my predictions for this year's 2024 Mr. Olympia Men's Open Bodybuilding. Hunter has a lot of size. Everyone keeps saying he has a lot of size, and I agree. He's a very large bodybuilder, and next to some of these other more symmetrical, more conditioned, more complete, more balanced athletes, Hunter does win some shots. But I don't think that the discrepancies in the torn pec, the absolute zero midsection detail, along with the issues he was showing in Italy with the midsection, and the overall just not a lot of detail in separation in the legs, I think all of those things stand out that I put him lower in the lineup. Whether or not the judges and the Olympia production team and the owners and the presidents and whatnot actually put him where he probably deserves to go, that's a different conversation. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it ever is going to happen. I do believe that they're going to continue to push Hunter Labrada, even though he is improving in size. The separation, the details, the discrepancies, the midsection, all of those things are not getting better over these years, and I don't actually understand what the difference is. You know, the one year they said it was the dieting, one year they said it was like food poisoning, and then he's got injuries here and there, and then he's not peaking right, or he spilled over. There's always seems to be issues around Hunter's prep, and it's never just ownership of like, oh hey, we were just off. There's always an excuse. There's always a production team behind him to give reasons of why he's not the best that he can ever be, and for that I put him in 7th. That is my pick for Hunter Labrada. I think he's going to play 7th. In my honest opinion, if I really sat down and looked at what the league's going to do, they're probably going to put him 5th. If they put him any higher than 5th, I think it'd be a complete robbery again, and people would speak out again of the robberies of the league putting Hunter Labrada over other people that clearly deserved better. So those are my picks. There's no way in any justification Hunter places above 5th place at this Olympia, but I have him at 7th. Let me know your thoughts on Hunter Labrada placing 7th down below. I'm sure your thoughts will be spicy. Now in 6th place is where we're starting to really start talking about some exciting guys coming into this Olympia. Some people that have never done it before, and some people that have done it a few times and continue to look phenomenal and continue to show improvements in their placings and their conditioning. So in 6th place, as we kind of roll into this Olympia weekend, I have Martin Fitzwater placing 6th place. I think that this guy is a very exciting physique. The structure, the presentation, the conditioning, he brings a lot of things that are desired in this first call out from the Olympia. And I always usually say that the top 6 is the actual first call out, but usually they just do the top 5. But in 6th place, I have Martin Fitzwater. Rolling into this year, he did really well against, was it Hunter at Texas? Or Andrew. He did very well at Andrew in Texas 2 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? Showed up and he's like, okay, now I'm taking some time off. He looked good. He came back, dominated the Detroit Pro. Most people said it was not even close. And then he came into the New York Pro, pushed Nick Walker, 1-point decision. However you want to slice and dice that, you can do whatever you want, but that's what the scorecard said. So bodybuilding math says that he should be placing right next to Nick Walker. Obviously, that's not reality. We're not gonna play those silly games. But Martin Fitzwater is phenomenal. He looks great. He brings a lot of size, a lot of density, good conditioning, and good detail. Overall, the structure is phenomenal. I think he's going to be one of these guys that's going to continue to climb in the rankings along with people. Hunter Labrada could continue to improve, and we're hoping he does. A fellow Texan. I do hope that he continues to improve his physique. But Martin, I have above Hunter Labrada in 6th place. Now, you're probably thinking in your head as we move to our 5th place pick, who's left in the top 10 that's going to be in my top 5? You got to have Derek. You got to have Samson. You got to have Hottie. And you have to have Andrew Jacked. Those guys have to be in this top 5. Who have we forgot that is going to creep into my top 5 prediction and, in my opinion, shock the Olympia world? It's none other than Raphael Brendo. I have been a fan of Raphael Brendo for years. Even when he didn't have the size that everyone said he needed to have, he was still winning shows. He was dominating shows in Brazil. He's coming into this Olympia. He's coming in fresh. He's coming improved. He's coming in huge compared to what we've seen from him in the past years. He chopped off the hair. There's no classic mustache in sight. This is going to be one of the best presentations we've ever seen from Raphael Brendo. And if you miss out on this, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to regret it. Make sure you purchase the live stream. This guy looks so good. I know I saw some comparisons in the media chat, in the bodybuilding journalism chat group with myself and the other guys, and they're saying slightly improved. I do not agree. I think he is very much improved, and he's ready to show people what he's been working on in this off season, clearly pushing the training, pushing the protocols to make everything a little bit better, and in my opinion, a lot of bit better. So that's my pick. That's my top 5 pick, Raphael Brendo in 5th place for this year's Mr. Olympia. Now, 1st through 4th can go any way. It all depends on who shows up in the right shape, in the right conditioning, and it's going to be an absolute, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a bloodbath on who shows up in the right conditioning, in the right fullness, who peaks it just right, who stands next to who. I'm really hoping Steve really puts these guys through the gauntlet to really show what they've brought and how amazing they look. Now, without further ado, I do have Samson Daa in 4th place, and I'm going to give you reasons why. Samson is an amazing guy. I love him to death. I've talked with him personally. He's a great dude. The physique is phenomenal. It is going to be a Mr. Olympia. If he never wins the Mr. Olympia, he will go down in history with Sean Ray, with Flex Wheeler, some of those guys like that, of people that never were, Gunter, Dennis James. I mean, all these guys that were so close to winning the Olympia, but didn't. But I do believe that Samson will win the Mr. Olympia one of these years. I think that there is probably a 10% chance that he wins this year. And that's with all the love and respect that I can give to Samson. I think that there's 3 other gentlemen in the lineup that are just a little bit more ready to win the Olympia. 2 of them already have won the Mr. Olympia, and the other one is definitely in the conversation to be the next one if it's not Samson Daa himself. So, again, love Samson. His physique speaks for itself. He is definitely one of the faces of modern men's open bodybuilding, and mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, he will be one of the next Mr. Olympias. But I do have Samson Daa in 4th place. Now, 3rd place, if somehow you missed it, all these guys could get thrown around depending on how the judges see it. But in 3rd place, I have Andrew Jacked. Now, Andrew could win this Olympia if he does get the right look from the judges, if the judges decide to take a different look, a different approach at the prejudging. They say, hey, we're going to go for a more aesthetic, more mainstream, but still having that freaky look to it. If they go that route, I think that Andrew Jacked is definitely going to be the pick to be that look. But if they stay with a more traditional freak factor, Andrew, shorter guy, real freaky, they're gonna go with someone like a Hottie or someone like a Derek. But I know Xavier Willis over at Desktop Bodybuilding, they liked how Andrew looks. He picked him winning the show with a Samson in a close second. I got nothing against that. Actually, I think in a couple episodes prior here on BNN for Bodybuilding and Friends, one of our podcasts, we talked about my picks being Andrew and Samson 1 and 2. But I had to be a little bit more realistic with myself. If I'm going to throw Brandon Curry and Hunter Labrada to the back of the pack, and I'm going to push Martin and Rafa, I've got to be a little bit more realistic with my top 4. And that's why I'm putting Andrew in 3rd. Although he could win this, I do think the Olympia is going to give him 1 or 2 more years to continue to perfect that physique. He's going to be a 4-time Texas Pro champion, and maybe then they'll reward him with the Olympia title. I do hope Andrew continues to win that Texas Pro show, but looking at his physique, we've already talked so much about Andrew Jacked and why we love his physique. It's really hard to just continue to keep hammering the same talking points with this guy. But we do love him. We love the way he looks, the way he represents men's open bodybuilding. And I definitely see him placing nowhere under 4th place. I think if he places 3rd, that makes sense. 4th would mean that Samson moved up, which I have nothing against. But that's where I have Andrew Jacked placing, is in 3rd place. Now we come down to the 1 and the 2, the left versus the right. Who is going to take the title home this year? Is it going to be the storyline that they want, with Derek defending the title and proving that he deserved last year's win? Or are they going to go with the controversial, more emotional pick of a Hottie Chupin, saying that I was robbed last year and I deserve to be a 3-time Mr. Olympia champion, but instead I will retain it to 2? That is going to be the question that's going to be answered in 2 days' time, ladies and gentlemen. Purchase the live stream at olympiaproductions.com, the packages, and the 2024 Olympia pay-per-view premium. Now, in 2nd place, I have Hottie Chupin. I have Hottie Chupin placing 2nd, which means Derek is going to retain it this year. Derek will prove that he did win last year with enough gusto, with enough validity to make him a 2-time. And this will really push his legacy. I think that as long as he continues, and I will show some footage of Hottie Chupin, I think that this will continue the conversation of Derek being dominant and continuing and starting an era, starting a legacy, maybe not something as dominant as something we saw from Phil Heath, but it's going to be good. It's going to be something that we're going to look back on and be like, okay, I was really happy that I got to see this era of bodybuilding. Derek has a very nice physique. It's got a lot of crazy flow to it. You can tell by this picture, not a lot of detail in the chest. So there are some issues with Derek's physique. The lower body isn't as big as the upper body. The upper body isn't as conditioned as the lower body. The midsection is essentially non-existent, and he uses the vacuum to hide the weak midsection, whereas Hadi Choopan has no weaknesses. The shoulders look a little questionable. If you know anything about sight enhancing, or not sight enhancing, but sight injection sites with the performance supplements that these guys have to take, you got to find places to put the stuff. And it's not always going to be in the butt. So sometimes it's going to have to go in the delts. Sometimes it's going to go in the lats. And that stuff's going to be whooshing around in the skin. You're going to see it. And that's what makes those shoulders look a little funky. It doesn't mean he's pumping synthol in there to make the shoulders look freaky. It might just mean that maybe the super supplements haven't really absorbed all the way. So Hadi versus Derek, I think, is going to be the conversation this year. I think that both of these guys are amazing champions, and I think that they will continue an amazing legacy that they have started in this rivalry. And it's definitely something that the Olympia wants to push. They want to push a competition like this where the two are battling it out. So that will be my official top 10 prediction for the Men's Open at this year's 2024 Olympia. As we are waiting for the ladies to finish up here at the press conference, we'll hop back on live and get some more reactions to that. But thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host here and producer on the Bodybuilding News Network, Josh Sanch. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.